Hey guys, this is Nick Marinaro again. For my Module 7 self-assessment, I actually created a Prezi. I don't know, I thought that kind of actually was the best way to visualize looking at the PDE competencies and uh, breaking it down uh, in the four different sections here. So, um, Section 1 for design and development. What I actually did for the first part here, the online teacher knows the primary concepts and structures of effective online instruction and is capable to create learning experiences to enable student access. I looked at what we just did in ACTE 632, the inclement weather unit. Basically, by building a unit itself, I thought that pretty much, that was kind of the pinnacle of what we were doing throughout all these courses. We built lessons, tried different tech tools, and here we actually created an entire unit. So I thought that encompassed Section A here. B, the online teacher understands is able to use a range of technologies, both existing and emerging. I went back to ACT 630, where we actually, in Module 5, we did collaborating tools that we used online. I used two of them, and I actually did some walkthroughs and YouTube videos for that back in ACT 630. One of them was for a program called Debate Graph, where students could collaborate and converse online. You could have polls, you could have discussions online. It worked great in a history course. That's what I was teaching at the time. And then the other one was Keiku. Keiku or Keikau, I wasn't exactly sure how to pronounce it again. But again, it was another visual type site that students could use to basically organize their information. C, the online teacher is cognizant of the diversity of student academic needs. Again, I went back to ACT 630, and I took a look at our Module 2, Understanding the Online Student. With that, I went back and looked at, when we looked and analyzed the text, the Prensky and Rice text, and discussed the different ways to use differentiation in the classroom and to be cognizant of different learners. So I attached the paper I had here for that and the discussions that we had in the class. In section 2, talking about delivery, I went to this first part here. The online teacher plans, designs, and incorporates strategies to encourage active learning, application, interaction, participation, and collaboration in the online learning environment. I went again back to ACT 630, and I went to Module 4 where we did the synchronous learning activity. We used Blackboard for that, if I remember correctly, so I don't have a copy of that lesson that I did, but I did a lesson with my U.S. history class actually on the history of the Confederate flag. I had them set up in the room with headphones. Everything was purely as it would be if it were an online classroom. It actually worked really well. It was basically a good taste to see how it'd be to be a full-time synchronous online teacher, and be able to see some of the benefits to that, but also see some of the challenges that came about by only being able to interact online and not being able to interact face-to-face at all. Section B, the online teacher promotes student success through clear expectations, prompt responses, and regular feedback. I went to ACT 633 for this one. We did the online field experience, and I actually took a look at some of the observations that I did of actual online teachers and professors, and took some cues from them to see how they actually set the expectations for their course and how their courses ran by keeping those high expectations and an established set of rules. And the ones that I watched seemed to be very efficient. So again, I looked at how they set up their courses with those expectations being in plain sight and easily accessible, and how well those classes were actually run. Section C, the online teacher is cognizant of the diversity of student academic needs and incorporates accommodations into online learning environment. Again, I went back to ACT 630, and I took a look at Module 6, differentiating for all students, and this is where we analyzed assistive technologies. And I actually picked apart a couple of my guided notes that I used for that. At the time I was teaching history and math, so I looked at a history lesson that was actually a PowerPoint lesson, and then some of my math notes that I used and analyzed where I could have changed some of those to make them accessible for different learners. A lot of that I analyzed where to put the alt text and just the breakdown of it, how it looked, the makeup of the material itself. And then in the assessment section here, the online teacher demonstrates competencies in creating and implementing assessments in online learning environments in ways that ensure validity and reliability of the instruments and procedures. Again, I looked at the assessments we just did here with the inclemental weather unit. I just took some screenshots of my pre-assessment and then actually some of my activities that I had, my various diverse assessments that I used throughout the unit here to show that. Section B, the online teacher develops and delivers assessments, projects, and assignments that meet standards-based learning goals and assesses learning progress by measuring student achievement of the learning goal. Again, I went back to ACTE 632 for this. Most of what I have in here is either from this current course or from 630. But I took a look at Module 2. I took a look at analyzing different courses with the QM standards and basically taking that and analyzing my own course later as well with those same standards. Being familiar with them and understanding how to measure how I'm creating this course to the proper standards. Section C, the online teacher demonstrates competency in using data from assessments and other data sources to modify content and guide student learning. Again, I took this ACTE 632 and I went back to Module 3, Analyzing and Planning, and I took a look at the survey that we did, so I included a link here to my Google form for the survey, and then the infographic that we created by basically taking student data and using that data to go forth and build the unit itself and build the assessments. So I included a link to that as well. And the last section here, emerging trends and professional responsibilities. Section A, the online teacher models, guides, and encourages legal, ethical, and safe behavior related to technology. I went back to ACT 634 and reviewed one of the copyright assignments that we did as far as analyzing a clip and deciding whether or not that it would be usable and legal. And then I just made a copy here, a link to the Children's Internet Protection Act link that we reviewed in length throughout that course as well. The online teacher interacts in a professional, effective manner with colleagues, parents, and other members of the community to support students' successes. Again, I took a look at this unit, what we did with the incremental weather unit itself. I had in there that was peer tested and critiqued. I had peers that I worked with test it, some teachers in my building that reviewed it for me, looked at it through the lens of a teacher, gave me some feedback of what they would change, maybe some of the different expectations that they might have. I shared it obviously with some of you and with Ollie and got feedback, and not only got the feedback, but actually used that feedback to alter the unit itself. And then I had down here parent observers with my Canvas course at school. My parents have the option to be observers and be able to oversee everything that takes place in the LMS. So again, I put that would be another way to effectively interact with parents. And I would keep that, in any further course, make sure that I have all my parents as observers set up. In the last section here, the online teacher arranges media and content to help students and teachers transfer knowledge most effectively in an online environment. Again, I went to in the current course with the inclemental weather unit, and I talked about, I'm going back to the discussion boards that we had. I think that is the best way to transfer knowledge most effectively. I think the discussion boards that we've had in this course especially have been impressive. and probably the best of any online class I've ever taken, actually, as far as sharing of ideas and actually people taking those ideas and using them to enhance, update, change their units and any ideas that they had previous to that. So I think this covers mostly everything. I said overall, again, everything within the ACTE courses here has been very, very helpful for me. Definitely things that I use within my classroom and that I will use going forward. And that's about it.